I buy faulty electronic items on eBay, attempt to fix them and sell them for a profit. Today's episode is very, very special. If we make a profit today, I would have made a profit 10 episodes in a row. Something that's never been done before on the series, and who knows, will it go even higher? Or in this episode, is it going to come plummeting down to a negative? Welcome your faces back to episode number 83 of the series Profit or Loss. Let's check out today's item and make a profit. I'm keen today, very keen. We have a faulty Nintendo Switch that I paid a total of £40 for. The eBay listing is a pretty simple one with this. It just says the item won't power on. And from first inspection on this under the microscope, we can see that the screws don't actually look stripped. Does that mean that somebody's not been in this device before? Absolutely not. I mean, that one kind of looks like it's had a screwdriver in, but this one here in the middle is the main one we're looking at. Maybe that has been opened. Let me check the other rail on the other side. Ooh, what's that? Some sort of liquid ingress, is it? I do see some, like, this is what it's got to. I see some like shards of screwdriver metal in there. Let's have a look at the port and these two on the bottom. See, that port actually looks okay. This screw looks like it's been taken apart. This one doesn't. So if somebody's taken apart this Nintendo Switch, they've been extremely careful doing so. The port itself actually looks okay. For that reason and that reason alone, I'm going to be using my trusty old ammeter. This little device will indicate what current the Switch has taken. Help me diagnose the fault a little bit easier before we actually take it apart. Okay, so Nintendo Switch, tell us a story. Let's plug it in and see what we get. Should get 15 volts. Oh, we get 15 volts and we get 0.09, 0.15. That's actually very healthy, believe it or not. If I leave this in charge and that goes up to 0.47 or so, we have an issue with most probably the display of the device. But I have also seen it before where 0.14/0.15 amps can be related to the P13 USB video chip on the back of the Switch. So I will indeed leave this in charge for just a little bit longer to see if this scales up or whether it just stays the exact same. So it's gone up to 470 milliamp, which would show that the battery is charging normally. We don't have the battery icon symbol here, which leads me to believe there's something wrong with the screen. What I'm going to do first, you should be able to hear this as well because I'm using OBS, so it should capture my desktop sounds. If I plug this in, which is a USB-C to my PC. I'm just checking to see if the device is in RCM mode, but it's not. So I'm not getting any tones to indicate that the device is being plugged in. All right, so it's definitely not in RCM mode. What I've also noticed about this console, which I failed to notice before, is that the serial number has been taken off. Why is that then? On such a clean looking device? And I think I need answers. Now, overall condition of this Nintendo Switch is actually pretty good, bar a couple of marks up at the top here. So I think the only thing left to do is get inside it. As always, to be as helpful as I potentially can, when you take apart any sort of electronic device and you're trying to get yourself into repair and you're not familiar with that device, I would recommend buying yourself some sort of like blue tack mat like I have here. White tack this one is, and just put in the screws on here. I actually learned this from my previous place of work. I think extremely useful if you tend to work on stuff like laptops and there's different layers to it, because essentially the layers will be customizable. You just put like a line for each layer. Comes the back. Do we have any signs of liquid damage? That's where I'm a little bit worried, to be honest. Doesn't really look like it at the moment. Definitely been into before, because I'm also missing this bracket up here. This usually has screws in. It's like a little plastic bracket, and I can see signs of liquid damage, I think. Not like this, please. Not today of all days. Let's go over to the scope real quick and we'll have a look as is. The thing is as well, working on these, if they are liquid damaged, like nobody wants to buy a liquid damaged motherboard. So the resale on this will not be worth much either, other than potentially the chassis. Yeah, there's you see we have a little bit of corrosion just down here. What's happened to the battery? Wait, okay, very, very interesting. Don't know what's happened there. Somebody looks like they have stripped that, albeit by accident, I think. I don't know how that's possible. I've never seen that. The issue here being that if the negative wire touches the positive, it's not going to be good, especially if there's power in the device. The liquid damage I saw with my naked eye was here, around where we have the backlight cable. How bad is that? Yeah, not horrendous. It looks like we might have just about caught this at the right time. What about the LCD? Can you see all this corrosion here? All right, well, we fixed one of these recently by giving it a good clean, so I think we're going to have to just replicate what we did and see if we can get it working. Who knows? I'll continue taking the rest of it out of the chassis, and then we can inspect the motherboard even further under the scope. Well, whoever took this apart before also dispatched the ribbon cable for one of the Joy-Con rails just down here. I think as well, it's pretty evident to see where the liquid damage has come from. Can you see up here where the game card reader is? So most likely, yeah, we can see on the actual game card reader as well. Liquid has come inside here and spread its way around the board. But like I said, we might be in a lucky situation here whereby we can actually resolve this by giving it a nice simple clean. Start by taking a look at the actual ribbon cables. How are they? Are they all right? I mean, that's the LCD one, and we have the fan one here as well. Now, IPA is going to be our best friend in this situation. Make sure we don't get it down actually onto the screen. Now, it might be that the screen and the actual chassis are gone for, but we'll give it a shot. Then I might need to change out the battery, or at least cover the wiring for the battery using some Kapton tape, or maybe heat shrink. Doesn't look like there's a split in this cable. There might be. Is that a continuous path or not? How is the actual battery? Yeah, that's fine. There's not any corrosion inside there either. Good. Now, I don't actually know how this is going to go. Just scraping back some of that to see if we get a continuous path. Now we want to hear a beep like this on the multimeter to insinuate that we do have a connection, which we don't. So that is a break in the tray. So if I go here and here, that's fine. If I go here and here, nothing. And we can see that I have exposed the copper just here. Do need to maybe make a little trace wire going from here to here. Try and stick that down like that. I don't know if that's going to work. A little bit of IPA. Again, just to confirm the break in that connection. Nothing. I might even just be able to apply a little bit of solder there, because that goes to here, but it just doesn't go to here. So there might be just that little break there. So a tiny bit of solder might actually be enough rather than a wire. So I'm just going to put a drop of flux there. Just see if we can bridge that. No, I don't think we can. I think it's going to have to be wire. Yeah, if I look at it like that from this angle, yeah, it needs to be a little bit wire. Now this wire obviously needs to be thin as well. And truth be told, I've never actually soldered on a ribbon cable as far as I'm aware, so this is actually a first for me. Needs to be okay. Drop of IPA. Give that a proper clean in a minute. First of all, see if we can chop this off without damaging the actual cable. There we go. In all honesty, I think it looks okay. Continuity mode on the old multimeter. Double check from here to here. Yeah, that seems better. Now I don't know if I should add conformal coating here. I'm not too sure, because I still want this to go in the connector nice and snug, you know? I think it'll be okay like that. We might have bigger fish to fry in the actual motherboard itself. See what I've done there, talking about fish, because this is water damage. Oh, okay, fine, all right. This is underneath the actual NAND as well. Okay, that's been hit quite bad, hasn't it? So has up here. What about inside the connector? Yeah, it's pretty bad in there as well. Okay, so this is quite a bad case of corrosion. Might need to reflow that Wi-Fi IC as well, because there looks like there might be signs of corrosion underneath the actual Wi-Fi IC. Corrosion all around here as well. That chip, which is I think the LCD driver, I want to say, or something along those lines, has quite a bit of corrosion around it. Up here where the fan and the power on button and the volume, etc. Same there. What about the back at the top? Yeah, same sort of story. Wow, 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 look at this. Might be a lost cause, unfortunately. And it actually looks like a bit of a burn mark underneath the Max IC and around that. Oh wow, oh wow. Yeah, look around the back of the CPU. That's a lot worse than I thought. I should have maybe checked this out before looking at the backlight, but I got a bit too keen, like I said at the start of this video. Really determined to make this work. Okay, my best hope here is to just give it a clean, to be honest. I'm not going to worry too much about reflow and stuff, because frankly, I don't really want to waste my time. Let's check the back of the NAND. Yeah, again, just corrosion pretty much everywhere. I wonder if underneath the NAND has any corrosion. Yeah, it does. Look, can you see just there? Yeah, I think this might be a write-off, but I'm going to give it a clean anyway, and we'll go from there. So it's had a relatively good clean again. You know, these are the after shots essentially, but I've tried to give it a best to clean as I can, but it's still looking rather dirty and grimy. I think we can all agree. You can see where whatever this is, this sticky substance is just latched onto the board. I don't know if it was water. I'm not sure. Might have been some sort of juice, but it's definitely left a residue other than the actual corrosion all over the board. Times like this, again, be really, really good to have a ultrasonic cleaner, but it is what it is, and we make do. We just do things manually. Right, let's put it back in the chassis and see if we get anything. I forgot to give the NAND a quick clean as well, so I'll just do that. Okay, battery, backlight, and LCD cable have been plugged back in. Let's see. Do we get anything on the actual screen itself? No. We still get absolutely nothing. And again, there could be so much wrong with this device. And truth being told, if I had a battery symbol turn up here, I wouldn't be selling this anyway. I really wouldn't feel comfortable about it, purely because of the amount of rust alone underneath the NAND. This is going to fail eventually. Can't really resell it because again it's been liquid damaged, so we're going to just have to take a straight up £40 loss with this one, unfortunately. The 10 in a row is not looking good, but there is potential for it to be saved, so let's go ahead and move on to item number 2. I actually paid a little bit over the odds for this one. This Xbox One S cost me £35. Now the reason I paid a little bit more for it is because it looks really cool, and I've never seen this color chassis before. I think it looks wicked. It is a disc version and it's not in the best of condition. We have a few scuff marks on the bottom, as you can see, but I've got a feeling it will go more than a normal Xbox One S, and if it doesn't, I'm an idiot and I may cry. Now the story behind this one, this item is being sold for parts due to a faulty HDMI port causing the screen to appear red. I don't think that's HDMI port, I think that's the retimer IC. Could be wrong, but when you start seeing a load of red dots on the screen, it's usually that chip. Before we do absolutely anything, let's plug it in, make sure it powers on. Oh wait, I mean that port does look a little bit worse for wear as well, should I say. Once it focuses in, there we go. Can you see the clasp? Yeah, the port itself doesn't look that great, and it feels very loose and wobbly. Look at that. Wow, that's going to need to be changed regardless. Point still stands. I just want to make sure it turns on and actually displays. So we get a white light, which is good. Do we get a disc? No disc. Over to the game scene. Okay, seems to be just cutting out. I mean, that did say doing an update. I'm pretty sure it did anyway, unless I just blinked incorrectly. No, it's not really doing anything. I saw something on the screen. There we go, preparing console. Okay, yeah, I see the red lines. You see the red lines cropping up? Don't know if that's the port or the retimer, but I think I'm just going to change both to be safe. I'm also looking forward to seeing if this is going to be a 500 gig or 1 terabyte. If it is 500 gig, I'm chucking in a 1 terabyte to get the most we can for this console. And also at the end, we'll look on eBay to see how much these go for. It does look like it's actually been opened before, which worries me, as you can imagine. Oh no, the blue button's broke. I might have to try and glue that back if I can. If it was just a normal Xbox, I would just replace the bottom. Condition-wise, it's just a bit dusty, I think, so it needs a nice little clean. Okay, it is a 500 gig hard drive. Again, I'm going to replace that with a 1 terabyte. Get the most that we can out of this console. Just a little bit dusty, but we can give this a nice clean. Probably going to replace that fan as well because that's really dusty. Quite a few dust bunnies, that's for sure. The thermal situation is obviously very, very dry, and this is the state of the old fan, and this is the one that I'll put in for it instead. I won't be binning this per se. I'm just going to keep it when I have more time to clean it properly. You know, how bad is this actual port then under the scope? Yeah, very bad. Hey, wow. The bit of plastic on this side has come off as well. It's still on the board pretty well. What about if we look at it from this direction? Oh, it's definitely been shunted, isn't it? So we need to get this off. Pretty simple here. We're going to go 480 degrees Celsius with an airflow speed of a lovely, juicy 80%. I'm not going to be applying any leaded solder or anything like that. I'm just going to try and let this drop out naturally. This is how I personally change a HDMI port on an Xbox One S. Should drop out any second. You can see solder's breaking. There it is. Now again, necessarily the solder isn't the issue here. What I'm going to do is apply a bunch of flux here and here and mix leaded with the unleaded that we have. There we go. Wait for that to sink through. Bond nicely. Just like that. Clean up the flux whilst we're here. Might as well turn it over, and you can see that solder's come through. More flux because we now need to tin the pads. Just put that there. Give it a couple of runs over. Make sure we get plenty of solder here. There we go. Again, clean up this flux. I keep reminding myself recently that, you know, the solder isn't the issue. The human element is, which is where people are prying this around. The solder doesn't just break, you know, unless you're working on PS5s. We have our new port here. Good thing about these is that the pins are actually quite far away from the pins inside the port. So you can use quite a bit of flux here without worrying about dodgy connections. There we go, tin port. Regardless, I would always try my hardest to get rid of any excess flux. There we go. Port's ready to go. So again, we just come in with the flux. Not massively needed too much. Make it nice and even around the board. Again, exactly the same with the 480 degrees Celsius airflow speed, 99%. We'll see that solder wet any second now. There we go. And now the leaded will really mix with that unleaded. And then we just go ahead and put the port on, drop it on. Hold that heat, make sure it sits flat. Give it a little nudge around, make sure that solder bonds. And then we'll just give it a little push down. Keep holding. My hot air gun is now off the board. Wait for that solder to solidify. There we go. And then we move quick time for a nice clean. Whilst the board is hot. 10 times easier to clean the flux. At that point, make sure the back of the board is all okay as well. Rather big blob there and there. Nothing to massively worry about, just OCD. There we go. That looks better. Nice, clean. Make sure we get all that flux. How are you looking? Nice, and you can see that solder's come all the way through as well. Let's just give these pins a quick nudge test. Make sure they're all soldered on correctly. Every single one absolutely fine. And then finally, I'm going to replace this anyway. I'd rather just not risk it, you know? So we're going to go 450 degrees Celsius here, airflow speed 50%, and just take one from a donor. I'm not going to make any measurements or anything like that. We're just going to get it. We're just going to do a straight swap. We saw the red lines. Yes, it definitely could have been just the port alone. But instead of me putting back together in testing, etc., it'll be a lot quicker for me just to replace. There we go. This is in fact from a donor. I'm not going to replace any of the solder here. There's not a need to, as long as we can solder it on correctly. So that's now solidly on. Not looking great, right? If we just then come in with a little bit of flux around the area, and now we're just going to hit it with a reflow. 450 degrees Celsius, airflow speed 50%. Should be okay. Come off the heat. Make sure that little ball's okay. And then a nice clean. Check our work, make sure we're all good. Then give it a test. Bit of IPA. Scrub with a toothbrush. How are we looking? All soldered on correctly. Looks good that side. Looks good that side as well. Nice. Fresh thermal pasta and a clean fan. Right, I've put very bare basics back just to make sure disk drive works, fan works, etc. And that we obviously get a display. So, does that happen? Do we get a display? And is it a solid one without any red bars? Looks good. Looks promising. I like it. Disk drive has taken a disk and is actually very, very quick to load, etc. So the disk drive is okay. Now what I need to do is just put a newer 1 terabyte hard drive and we can call this one fixed. Also good news, I've just been able to use some super glue here and this button is absolutely ready to go. And that is the console all back together, pretty much ready to sell, just needs a final little clean. And now I have one more item for today's video. This item probably entirely is going to decide whether we make a profit or a loss. I have with me here a faulty Nintendo Switch that I paid a total of £27.50 for. Slight weird price, but I actually bought a few of them in bulk, so therefore managed to get them cheaper. So £27.50 is really, really good. Condition-wise, seems to be lovely. Not many scratches on the rails from what I can see. The screen itself has no big scratches, and this rail is absolutely fine. The back of it looking good. The issue with this specifically is that it just doesn't power on. Let's go ahead in that case and check the charging port. Okay, it could be really good, it could be really bad. Sometimes these can be relatively simple in the sense that it is just a charging port swap. However, if we have any shorts on the motherboard, that could cause us a big issue, and it might make this Nintendo Switch irreparable. Doesn't look like, according to the screws, that it's been opened before. I really hope that's the case anyway. Let's look at the side ones. Potentially. Let's go ahead then and crack this open. I really hope this doesn't have another case of bad water damage. Looking good. Inside here is looking relatively clean as well. We have our polka dot sticker, which doesn't look like it's had any liquid damage to it, like what we see so far. I actually go about 200 degrees here with an airflow speed of around about 70% or so, just to get these little bits off. 200 degrees is roughly around about the rate that plastic starts to melt, so you do have to be rather cautious. I failed that one anyway. Let me get this one up. There we go. Board is now at the chassis. So here it is, a Nintendo Switch motherboard. Straight up, I'm going to take this port off first. Then we're going to check and see if we have any shorts on the motherboard. We are going to go 450 degrees Celsius with an airflow speed of 50%. I think I might have actually just messed up and not shown you the recording itself, but that's off now. And here's the actual inside of that port. So it's definitely not looking great. What I'm going to do whilst the board is relatively hot though is just go ahead and apply some leaded solder, because as I've more recently learned, I guess, the solder isn't necessarily the issue. It's more so user damage, right? And it makes our life that little bit easier just by adding leaded rather than having to remove everything. I think we can get away with this more so because we use the drop method as well, which you have to with the Nintendo Switch because of the hidden pads underneath. But here I am just adding leaded to the unleaded we already have on the board. Make sure it's nice and thick. There we go. Now we clean and conduct some tests to make sure we don't have any shorted components. And I'm really hoping and praying this is just going to be a nice, simple board swap, because we should, in that scenario, be looking at a profit. Should be in a keyword here. Meter is in continuity mode, whereby if we join the probes together, we have a continuous path and the meter beeps. So let's check for any shorts. Okay, good so far. So this side of these caps is ground. This isn't. Check here. Yes, 500 ohms on the CPU cap. Things you love to see. And here, P13 ETC should be all good. All right. Check around the old BQ. By some miracle, it looks like we don't have any shorts. Let me check the fuse. Fuse is good. It has a continuous path as well. That cap's fine. It's looking like then it should just be a port swap. But M92 can still sometimes fail and just not display a short to the caps around it. Now we just take a Nintendo Switch port and tin it before we go ahead and put it on the board. Give it some leaded. There we go. Clean out some of this flux that we have here. Well, almost didn't see that. We have a little bit of a bridge there. No, we don't. So the board is tinned. Now, being 100% honest, the last few Nintendo Switches that I've had, granted one of them was like a speed run, should we say, I've not managed to successfully do a reflow without going over the back pins. So let's see if we can change that right now. Take our time a little bit more, hey. 450 degrees Celsius, airflow speed is going to be 50%, just to ensure that that port doesn't go flying off the board. That's why we don't use anything higher. Preheat the board. Make sure all of that solder is molten. It's just about going there. There it goes. Okay, now we can place our port on. Slowly but surely. It's not sat properly, as we can see. So we just give it a little bit of a shimmy. Sometimes these bigger ground ones go solid, which is why it doesn't sit, which I think is what's happening now. So just give it a little bit of time. Give it a slight nudge, I was going to say, but I just picked it off the board. There we go. Try and make sure it's as flat as possible to the board. And whilst you're here, give it a little bit of a shimmy back and forth. Oh, again, I've knocked it off the board. Crazy. Not that much of a shimmy. A little bit of back and forth. Make sure that solder bonds. And then once we're happy, give it a final push down. Come off that heat, and hopefully that is a solid port with all the pins connected. We shall see. Quickly, as always, a clean. Very important. Get that flux off. Usually I'll take it out of the board holder, but I'm doing it in the board holder right now, just whilst it's really hot. There we go. How's the back looking? Super clean as well. You can see the solders pushed through. How the pins from this angle. Moment of truth, this is. I don't know. Let's just get a little bit closer here. Oh, maybe. Might be okay. The real test is the nudge test. Here we go. Okay. All right. Let's go. Okay, fine, good. All seem to be solid. Now, I do have a very special piece of equipment and software to show you. The one and only Mr. Paul Daniels, link for his website is actually on the PCB. It's pldaniels.com, has sent me this device. You might be thinking, Joey, what is this device? Essentially, it's an on-screen ammeter for me. You might be thinking, what do we do here then, Joey? On this side, we plug a mini USB cable into the device, and the USB-A side of it goes into your PC. I'm pretty sure that gives this LCD power and obviously transfers the data to your PC. Then I plug in my power source, which in this case is my Nintendo power lead, which gives 15 volts. Plug this in as well. We should get the tone. Lovely jubbly. PLD USB-C meter. And I get voltage and amps. That's not the best part of this though. I plug this in, and as you can see up here, we have the ammeter. So this can be used for me on screen, just up here, so I don't have to have this in range. I can put this over here and still have it on screen, which is really, really nice. And I can use it as a replacement for the actual physical ammeter itself. So I've taken my USB-C cable, I've plugged it in to the ammeter just here, and I take the other end of the USB-C cable because again, we've got power going to the device with the USB and power for the Nintendo Switch separately. And now we plug it in and we should get a reading if I've done a good enough job. There we go. We have 14 volts just up here, and it's flickering between 0.04 amps and probably 0.01 amps. And we can also see there's like a little red bar. Can you see that? That's his lifeline, is the way I see it. So let's remove it, and I'm going to turn it around and see if it works this way as well. Do we have 15 volts? We do. 15 volts, 0.05, 0.04, and then it turns off. That is almost identical to what I get on this ammeter. So I'll try it again the other way because I didn't actually see that the first time around. 0.02, 0.05, 0.04, and then off. Perfect. I know that this Nintendo Switch is taking a charge both ways. And again, the beauty of this, I just move it over. I can take my cable and not even have to look at that. This is ideal for somebody who does like YouTube videos like me, recording and capturing things on OBS or a streamer. This is perfect. What if we go ammeterception here? So I've got Paul's ammeter plugged into this one. What do we get? Does it register the same? 0.02, 0.04, and then drops down. So I actually think this one is lagging behind. I think this one's more accurate. This Nintendo Switch should be working. I'll caveat this as well by saying that this isn't just for Nintendo Switches. I know Paul himself actually works on MacBooks a lot and he uses this. Think of this as just the middleman between your power source and the device you're working on. And essentially it gives you a little health check. As long as you've got the USB-C in and the USB-C out, you can use this for pretty much anything, as far as I'm aware. Paul actually sent me this for free, which he definitely didn't have to do. So if you're somebody who feels like you could benefit from using this, I'll leave a link down below to Paul's website in the description of this video. And bare basics have been put back together. So let's see what charge we do get. Okay, 100 milliamps, that's good. Anything on the screen? Yes, focus. Why are you not focusing? Manual focus, there we go. Yeah, so we're drawing, as you can see up here, so we've got a nice healthy 15 volts. We've got 110 milliamps currently. I might be wrong, but I think the red line is voltage and the white line is our amps. So I'll leave that to charge for a little bit longer, put it back together, give it a full test, and hopefully report back with a profit. Okay, and now, yeah, that white line has just jumped up because it's gone to 200 milliamps. So that is definitely amps. I can now also happily confirm that everything seems to be working with this Nintendo Switch. No issues with Joy-Con, game, etc. SD card read is being tested. You should even be able to see here any second now that it works on a docking station. There it is. Again, took a little bit longer. So I'm happy to announce that we have definitely made a profit, at least with this Nintendo Switch and that other Xbox. It's time for us to turn our attention to Sally. Have we made it 10 wins in a row in the profit or loss series, which has never been done before? I think, like I said before, 6 or 7 was our max. So this will be incredible. Sally, oh Sally, oh Sally, this is going to be stressful. Our total cost for everything today, device-wise, was £102.50. Parts was 50p for the Nintendo Switch port. Oh, and we'll say 50p as well for the Xbox One S HDMI port. So we'll say £1 for parts. Even though the Xbox One S is a limited edition console, I'm still going to put the normal standard price of around about £70 or so for a 1TB Xbox One S. So we'll have £70 for the Xbox One S. Nintendo Switch, I think I'll be able to get around £80 for at the moment. The prices for those has dropped drastically as well, giving us a total of £150, leaving us with a total profit in today's video of £33 on the nose. Adding 33 just here and our total profit gives us a respectable total profit of the series of £528.58. Most importantly, we have managed to hit 10 episodes in a row of pure profit. Combining this glorious amount is £536.63. Long may it continue. I don't know if it can go on any further. I think me being a lot more selective with the stuff that I buy and just being able to find good deals has really contributed to this streak. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Hit the thumbs up button if you did and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. I'll leave the playlist to this series just up here so you can start from the very beginning. Have a good rest of your day, week, weekend, evening, whatever it is for you. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.